Thunder Bay City Council puts the finishing touches on the latest budget. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay's 2024 budget has been ratified after a unanimous vote last night at City Hall. Vasilios Bellos has been following the budget process for us. Vasilios, there was actually a small drop to the tax levy hike last night, correct?
That's right, Ryan. That slight decrease resulted in an approved tax levy hike of 5.91% before growth and 5.47% after. While that did ease the burden on taxpayers, it came at the cost of higher user fees at city-owned golf courses. Thunder Bay's largest ever budget is in the books. The $537 million spending plan was ratified unanimously on Monday, with the tax levy hike approved at 5.91% before growth and 5.47% after. That hit Council's target of 5.5%. There were some last-minute changes before ratification, including the reversal of a motion regarding the Victoriaville Parkade.
Administration suggesting that we stay the course with the original plan.
Council previously agreed to push off all but $200,000 of the $1.2 million for repairs to the Victoriaville Parkade, giving time to consider the future of the structure, including a potential demolition. Council had a change of heart on Monday night after city staff argued more information is needed.
Encourage further traffic into the parkade, to track it, to report on it, and to report back to council. And that at that point, we would have some concrete data.
Eventually, it's going to have to be torn down.
Councillor Mark Bentz is in favor of the demolition, but still agreed to trust administration's recommendation.
I'd rather do it sooner than later, but I'm hearing there are some risks this year if we defer that $1 million. I'm also hearing it's going to take a couple of years to get a solid recommendation.
The other decision before ratification that lowered the tax levy hike was an increase to golf fees at city-owned courses, Chapels, and Strathcona, recommended by Councillor Michael Zucino. It includes a more than 5% increase for 9-hole play, 4.1% for 18 holes, and 3% for an adult season pass.
5% was a reasonable amount to increase based on the product that's provided. I like playing this sport, and I don't really want the taxpayer to have to subsidize it. I think that's something that, we can afford to pay for a product that's justifiable.
And while the 2024 budget has been ratified, City Treasurer Carrie Grieve stresses the 2025 process has already begun.
Budget process doesn't really stop at the city. We will be bringing some information to council closer to the summer, looking for some more budget direction.
Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
Also during that meeting, approval to begin the recruitment process for the mayor's housing task force. It's expected to have representation from the construction sector, the real estate association, and affordable housing advocates. It's meant to help Thunder Bay hit its provincial housing target of 2,200 new units by 2031. The city's already coming off a successful year as one of just 9 Ontario municipalities to meet its 2023 goal. Mayor Ken Boshkoff says the task force will be an important part of keeping that trend going. He adds he's already received plenty of interest from the community.
We meet with people who have ideas for more housing or new forms of housing. So I'm convinced that the capacity to do these things is out there. So that's why I'm feeling that confidence. So it's a matter of finding the tradespeople, because skilled trades, nothing gets built without the trades.
Task force member recruitment will take place over the next month. City work crews continue to repair a trunk water main after a leak was discovered a few days ago. Residents on the north side of the city are being advised to run their taps to eliminate any discolored water. The leaky water main is located off Strathcona Avenue, about 1 kilometer west of the Bear Point water plant. City Sewer and Water Superintendent David Warwick says it's a large 900-millimeter water main. Crews have been digging around the pipe to try to locate the source of the problem before it can be repaired.
Well, we're not sure exactly what caused the leak yet. Our crews are excavating the leak and dewatering the hole right now. We should know by the end of the day what we need to do to repair it. So once we figure out exactly what's wrong, we'll set up a plan for the repair, and then we'll have a plan for getting the main back into service.
Warwick expects the water main to be repaired by Friday. Until then, residents, mainly in the Current River area, may notice discolored drinking water. They're advised to run one cold water tap for 5 minutes until the water is clear, and then run their hot water and other taps the same way. Water pressure may also be affected while the repair work is underway. The leadership of the Red Rock Indian Band is being challenged by a group of band members. A motion was put forward last week asking for the removal of the chief, but the outcome is under dispute. The vote to remove Chief Marcus Hardy from office was held at a general band meeting on February 7th. According to Hardy's opponents, 57 band members voted in favor of removing him, 23 were against, and there were 11 abstentions. A 2/3 majority is required for the vote to be binding, but sources say the motion was considered defeated because the abstentions were included in the total vote count. Hardy's opponents are disputing that decision, noting without the abstentions, the 57 to 23 vote, meets the 2/3 majority threshold. The vote organizers are asking Red Rock Council to resolve the conflict and for Hardy to be removed from office immediately. Hardy and the band council have declined to comment on the situation. Soon, Ontario drivers will no longer need to renew their license plates. The government has announced it's scrapping the requirement. It comes as data shows there are more than 1 million drivers in the province with expired plates. Also today, the Premier announced new legislation that will give voters a direct say over any future provincial carbon pricing programs. CTV's Siobhan Morris breaks it all down.
On Ontario roads, they've been adding up. More and more vehicles with lapsed registrations since the province knocked out renewal fees and reminders to drivers. Today, a surprise announcement from the Premier.
We're getting rid of the re-registration. It'll be automatically re-registered, so people won't have to worry about that at all.
The change baked into legislation to be introduced at Queen's Park next week as MPPs return from winter break. The slip came as the Premier visited a gas station to rail against the carbon tax.
It's making life more unaffordable for people right across the board.
And reveal another part of that coming omnibus bill.
This new legislation will require future provincial governments to hold a referendum before imposing a carbon pricing scheme.
Taking swipes at the rookie Liberal leader in her hometown of Mississauga.
My record couldn't be more different than Bonnie Crombie's. She supported the carbon tax right from the start. She's the queen of carbon tax.
This is get back on track legislation.
A stunt that political analyst Scott Reid says gives progressive conservatives a 2-for-1 deal the day after a tough loss in the courts on Bill 124.
He gets to fight a very unpopular tax, and he gets to wedge Bonnie Crombie, the new Ontario Liberal leader, by associating her with the federal Liberal carbon tax.
Forcing Crombie to say whether she supports carbon pricing or wants to part ways with the federal Liberals and reject it.
Ford knows that if he loses in the next election, it'll probably be to Bonnie Crombie. He wants to stop her before she gets started.
Bonnie Crombie calls this all a distraction, writing, "Desperate Doug is clearly trying to distract from his repeated failures with grandstanding ploys about federal debates." Adding maybe the Premier should have had referendums on changes to healthcare, the Greenbelt, and Service Ontario.
That was CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting. Well, with the warm weather we've seen this winter, coupled with the lack of snow, some people are concerned about the upcoming forest fire season here in northwestern Ontario. But Chris Marchand with the MNRF says they're not panicking yet, as a lot can change between now and the official start of the fire season in April.
We still have half the winter yet to go. So it is a bit early for us to, really speculate on how this is going to affect the spring fire season. However, we will make arrangements to ensure that we are prepared to respond should that fire hazard occur before then. If we're still facing these warmer and drier weather patterns in the weeks ahead, you could see some actions taken to increase our resource capabilities if an early spring fire hazard calls for it.
Marchand says the severity of a fire season is impacted by several factors: the amount of rain we get in the spring, how fast the snow melts, and the thawing of the forest floor all contribute to what we may see in the summer ahead. Wildfire activity doesn't usually pick up until early May. Marchand acknowledges the first few fires could come earlier this year if more snow doesn't arrive. In order to prepare, the MNRF has been busy hiring forest fire rangers for the upcoming season.
Still open for applications in terms of fire rangers. That the deadline for those applications is April 15th. So if there's anybody out there who thinks that might be an interesting way to spend their summer, I would certainly encourage them to go to our website at ontario.ca/become a fire ranger and really have a look at what that opportunity entails.
In just 3 days, on Friday, the 2024 Ontario Winter Games will kick off in Thunder Bay for the first time since 1974. Today at the Canada Games complex, the public got a first look at the medals that will be awarded to the athletes. Jaden Billick reports.
This news conference showcased the opening ceremony musicians, the Lockyer Boys, and unveiled the stunning bronze, silver, and gold medals to be awarded to the top competitors. The big event will bring in over 1,000 athletes, coaches, and officials from the region and rest of the province. Games Committee Chair Barry Stribe says he couldn't be more grateful for the sponsors and dedicated volunteers who are working hard to present this prestigious event, and he's very excited for the launch of the Games.
My heart's still pounding. I can't wait for it to start and just witness and experience what's going to happen. I'm going to try to get out to most of the venues where the athletes are competing, just to, number one, say hello, but just to see what this is all about in person.
Nearly 2 years of planning by the Games Committee will finally be brought to the spotlight starting on Friday. The public is encouraged to come out to the opening ceremonies, taking place at the main square at the Fort William Historical Park from 5 to 9 p.m. The young athletes at the Games range from 12 to 18 years old, battling in 13 sports at 11 different venues. 2 of the local wrestlers competing in the Games were present at the news conference today and say competing in their hometown is a great feeling.
It's really nice because all of them can come watch in person and cheer me on. It's helpful to have someone in the stands cheering you on.
It's nice because they can all support you and they'll all cheer for you.
This is an important time in their professional career as they develop into the opportunities that are created by having these events for them, the games for them.
Jaden Billick, TBT News.
Sticking with upcoming sporting events, in just 1 year and a day, Thunder Bay will host the Canadian Women's Curling Championship. Officials with Curling Canada announced today that tickets will go on sale next week for the 2025 Scotties Tournament of Hearts. Spectators weren't allowed at the 2022 Scotties due to the pandemic, and only a few hundred volunteers were there for the playoff round. But it should be a full house next February. Various ticket packages will be available starting on February 22nd at 10:30 a.m. Purchases can be made online on Curling Canada's website or in person at the Fort William Gardens box office. Those who bought tickets for the 2022 Scotties will have priority in 2025. Curling Canada says an email will go out to those people on Thursday with details about the pre-sale. Scotties Vice Chair Diane Imrie says after 2 previous attempts to host the event, it's exciting to know the gardens will be full this time around.
And this has been, 3 times lucky. We're looking forward to being able to, because we originally were supposed to have 21, then we got 22 with only fans allowed. And now you're right, it's going to be packed to the rafters cheering on our curlers. It was a very strange moment being in a rink, watching with no fans or nobody in it, but it's going to be packed, and we know curling fans here in Thunder Bay support everybody, so it's going to be a fantastic event.
The Scotties will take place next year from February 14th to the 23rd at Fort William Gardens. And Haley, of course, we're talking about the Ontario Winter Games coming up later this week. We're talking about the Scotties, so it seems only fitting that we also talk about some seasonal winter temperatures. Now, you're not really used to that when you're standing there.
I know, right? Haley Perot talking about seasonal temperatures. It seems a little wild to me, but it does also seem like perfect timing for those winter sporting events. So today we did see seasonal temperatures. Our high was -5. We hit that around 3 o'clock today. It did feel like -9 with the wind chill. We saw it with a mix of sun and clouds today, heavy cloud coverage in the morning, then it opened up early afternoon to some more sun, and now we're seeing some more clouds again. Our low today was -15, which is actually 3 degrees warmer than a seasonal low. So we're still seeing a little bit better on that end. And that happened at 9 a.m. today. And with the wind chill, it felt like -18. So a little bit of a chilly morning, that's for sure. But as we look at the region right now, we see Fort Frances had a similar temperature to us today. They're currently at -5 under some partly cloudy skies. -6 in Dryden. They had a fairly sunny day today. And then we see a string of -7s across the west, more into the central part of the region, Red Lake through into Uppsala. And Red Lake had a partly cloudy to mostly cloudy day, and their high was -6. So they're only 1 degree colder right now. Sioux Lookout, they got some snow today around 10 a.m. and it went into their lunch hour, and then that teetered off a little bit in the afternoon. Armstrong saw some light snow as well until around 1 p.m. They're at -12 now, and Greenstone has had on and off light snow all day, and it is back now at this hour. They're at -12 as well. We see some matching -10s through in the more eastern side of our region in Nipigon, Marathon, and then over into Wawa. And then Sault Ste. Marie is at -6 right now, and that's actually the coldest they got today. So not too cold over in Sault Ste. Marie. Now for Thunder Bay tonight, we will drop down to -15, feeling like -19 with the wind chill, and we'll see increasing cloudiness. So we have some cloud coverage right now, and it'll get a little heavier as we go throughout the night. Winds from the southeast, only about 5 to 15 kilometers, so that wind chill shouldn't be too frosty. But we'll have more details on our region and across the nation a little later.
Okay, thanks a lot, Haley. I'm not used to these seasonal temperatures. That looks a little frosty as we look at that overnight low. I knew it had to happen at some point, though. All right, let's turn our attention to Washington now. When we return, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly was in the U.S. Capitol meeting with the Secretary of State. Of course, all this as the war in Gaza rages on. We'll have that and more when your Tuesday News Hour continues right after the break.
As it continues to rise, U.S. President Joe Biden has been putting pressure on Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.